Welcome to Armberger's Smackdown at TFNFinancialNews.com. I'm J. Christoph Armberger. Depending on where you read about it, Britain is currently suffering from the worst flooding in modern history, in living memory, or in 60 years. These are impressive benchmarks, and they're sorely needed. After all, the softer, more comfortable, the more prosperous and convenient our modern life gets, the more we all like to think of ourselves as living in extreme times. Survivor times who hang on and outlive, outwit, outlast conditions that would have had Attila the Hun, Ethan Allen and General Patton reach for the Pepto-Bismol. But let's look at those benchmarks for a moment. Depending on whom you ask, modern history begins somewhere between the middle of the 15th and 16th centuries, and that really only where Western Europe is concerned. Those must indeed be some floods then, and some pre-Newtonian scientists who may have measured rainfall in meticulously carved horn beakers for us to compare apple to apple, water chestnut to water chestnut. Living memory, however, is quite a bit less impressive if you really think about it. And I'm not referring to my own living memory, which lasts from about 12 to noon on some days, especially when it comes to locating my keys or wallet. On other occasions, however, I do remember the North Sea storm flood of 1969 in vintage black and white television images, and bits and pieces of Lilienkron's ballad about the sunken township of Rungholt, set to a catchy tune by Achim Reiche. Most of all, however, I see in my mind the high water marks on the walls of old South German and Austrian buildings, or on townhouses built right along the River Rhine, which, if memory serves right, resemble a veritable hodgepodge of years and dates and centuries, spreading from yay-high to the second floor and above. Least impressive, as far as benchmarks go, is the actual hard data year of comparison. A spokesman of the British Environment Agency said, "We have not seen flooding of this magnitude before. The benchmark was 1947, and this has already exceeded it." So from the 500 years of modern history, we're down to 60 years. Still impressive, although this already enters the realms of my parents' generational recollection. These involve being spanked for pulling a sled with what two Wehrmacht soldiers called a V2 to the railway station without parental permission, the Red Army invasion, the Berlin airlift. But they also invariably feature Kleenex boxes worn for shoes, and we felt lucky to have those. 5-mile hikes through the snow to the school bus stop, and the suitability of black roots as a perfect substitute for asparagus. Not exactly trust-inspiring. Creative temporal benchmarking of extremes is not only part and parcel of the environmental reporter's tool chest, but also an old standby of financial writers and authors involved in the daily workup of the proverbial big picture. Typically, this category of journalist is not recruited from people with an actual grasp of history, but from among those who can repeat data they have seen in reports or look at timelines in graphs as something absolute. Accordingly, not a day goes by that we don't hear about new records, record lows in currency exchange rates, record highs in oil, gasoline, or gold prices. Usually these numbers are taken and represented at face value, either unadjusted for inflation or devoid of closer analysis of the adjacent economic and social factors. Numbers, after all, don't lie. If they accurately reflect reality is one question, however, and if this reality indeed serves as a solid and reliable base for forecasts and projections is quite another. At least in regard to England's recent spate of wet feet, we can rest assured that the experts not just have a grasp on the effect, but a handle on the cause as well. Climate change may be the culprit, says one Tim Evans of the Chartered Institution of Water and Environment Management, adding that the situation matched predictions of how global warming would affect Britain. What we now think of as extreme events will occur more often than in the past, and the extremes will get more extreme, Evans added. Don't let those people hear this for whom the European winter of 1945, the English flooding of 1947, or the North Sea storm surges of 1969 are part of actual living memory. Extreme weather events in a day and age devoid of climate catastrophe caused by American middle-class moms driving little Tyler and Tiffany to interpretive dance practice in their Ford excursions. Preposterous. I feel inclined to file such claims in the same box as my parents' Kleenex box footwear and Blackroot side dishes. For TFN Financial News.com, I'm J. Christoph Armberger.